and I am Mary Anacon. The just concluded APC Congress experienced a variety of issues in various states in the country. For instance, in Anambra, the Congress was postponed due to insecurity. The one in Oyo State was suspended. 4 chairmen emerged in Akwa Ibom due to parallel congresses, the boycotting of the Congress in Delta State, among others. It is also worthy of mention that in almost all states, a parallel Congress... Very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Lagos, they were hoping, in fact, they were so certain that Lagos State was going to experience parallel congresses. But then let's start with Lagos because that's where we are. One would think that Lagos APC has it all together, being that the leader of the APC is from Lagos State. But what we saw over the weekend did not necessarily point to that.
You know, there are at least 2 approaches to promoting internal democracy within political parties, because we are talking about party congresses now, and one is advocacy, the other is legal or regulatory approaches. And you must begin to ask questions in this direction, that was there sufficient inclusiveness within the party to ensure that we did not have the cross Congress that took place. And again, have we been able to firm up the rules and regulations within the system that will prevent those who are overtly ambitious in code now from running in such a manner that will bring embarrassment to the party? Except we just want to assume, and like they say that assumption is the lowest level of knowledge, that situations like this should be part of politics. And when you talk about internal democracy also, I mean, you must generate methods of including party members in this that controls other faction, claiming that I am in control, you are in control. And if at the party level, we have not been able to bring about true democracy, how can we now begin to deliver dividends of good governance to the people? And these are the concerns of many of us as we dialogue now. And in virtually all the states, just that some parties are not learning from history. We recall how the crisis election as a candidate, and that was victory for PDP. So I think for now, we should have gone beyond the inability to put our houses in order, so that when we eventually step into the opportunity of managing the nation at the macro level, we also come out with excellent results.
Okay, let me move to Achike. Achike, still staying with Lagos. Let's not forget that Lagos State APC came up with the whole Southwest for Asiwaju, and, you know, if the Southwest does not or is not seen to be able to put itself together, how can they be pushing or positioning for a presidency?
Home of the APC. And of course, if you're talking about the APC, you're talking of one major person, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the Asiwaju. He is you could call us few days, it's a diminution of his authority, you know, and the
really,
respect.
How so?
He is the dominant personality within the APC. His word is law, is authority, and it has been reported all this while that he has a hand in virtually all the elective positions that go on, especially in Lagos State, which is the bastion of his political empire. That he has to give the nod to everybody that wants to contest, even as
people feel that you should run. Of course, they will vote for you. So really, could we say that this is a rumor or a belief that has been put out there?
He's a politician. He's expected to say so. The reality is that he must have, if you have any serious political, motivation, ambition in Lagos State, most especially, it is better for you, for your political successes, to seek the favor of the person that matters more than any other person within the politics of the state. And, the reality is that it is not a new thing. In virtually every part of the country, you also have godfathers who have a larger-than-life image, more or less, who can determine the political direction of any particular person. In most cases, these godfathers are the founders of the party. And because they are the founders of the party, they tend to have a very big say in what happens within the party structure. Do not forget that in the First Republic, we had members of political parties who were contributing to the fortunes of these parties. That Obasanjo, in discussion with Tinubu, to allow the PDP win some concessions within the Southwest, especially the governorships of some of the states in the Southwest, which Obasanjo, somehow went against some agreements that they already had in place with Tinubu. But Tinubu was able to bounce back, and his party was able to bounce back. But over time, you have seen the APC or the ACM before they suffer losses in places like Osun State before now, in place state, till about when Fashola, was governor and left office as governor. There was nobody who had the guts, who had the courage, who had the clout to challenge Tinubu or to challenge the political hegemony of Lagos State at a particular, for that period of time. But over time, just like the last Congress that we had, we've had people who have shown that courage for whatever reason to challenge the hegemon in Lagos State. And that is what we are seeing again in the primary of the party and in the way the party goes about doing its things. You realize that somehow they have fallen short of a political party. So you just have a political party in name, but more or less move from one party to another party, and all that. It is simply because there's no enduring, philosophical construct that wields these people together. And that's why you are seeing all of these parallel congresses, because they are not motivated by any sound ideological compass, but except the desire for political power for the sake of it.
Let me go back to Barrister Logan. It seems very obvious that these congresses this time around are between the governors versus, former governors. It seems it's a versus between the governor versus him, and then versus the Minister of State for Transportation in Kwara State. We have seen it makes me really wonder, why is it a versus between the governors and the former governors?
You see, this is a very brilliant question that we have on the table. And I must say it's because we have relegated good governance, not just the back seat, but to the boot of the vehicle locked up there. Because if we have paid attention to good governance, having exercised the opportunity of governing a state, the next post of assignment is for you to occupy a space of respect and just watch and advise from the background. But now that we have found ourselves in a different democracy in Nigeria, where it may be the government of the people, by the government, and for the elite. So you see people clamoring for power. I mean, when you talk about the likes of Obama in the Democrats in America, these guys will rather back up candidates and things like that. But you see a situation where politicians are deliberately rocking I was involved in a dialogue concerning the case of Kwara State before these congresses, and it was not a beautiful one at all. A political stalwart was actually abusing the governor that is there now and claiming that if APC has any interest in Kwara State, that governor must not be presented for election again. So you begin to wonder what has happened to the tenets of internal democracy. But where you abandon the interest of the people and you begin to project your personal ambition, this is where you find yourself. Because, look at what happened in 2015, the enormous goodwill that was delivered to this party. And today, you can hardly differentiate between the two parties in terms of learning from their failures or learning from their successes, because the people have been impoverished. We have various crises in the country. And this is a confirmation that rather than focusing on solving the problems in the land and enhancing the fortunes of the people, they are busy struggling for power. And the big question is, why do you need this power? Why do you need this authority? Of course, to carry out the mandate of the constitution that says that the security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So some of us may predict that they should expect more of this until they begin to pay attention to the purpose of being in office, which is to serve the people and bring prosperity back to the nation.
It makes me really wonder if the APC has learned, because you were making reference to that, if they've really learned from their mistakes. Because many pundits have said that the reason why the APC will keep struggling as a political party is because they did not have clear-cut principles and a plan of sorts other than to take out the government that was in power at the time. But let's talk about learning from mistakes. Let's look at a state like Rivers State, where we've had the same issue go on and on and on, and it's still repeating itself. Even it repeated itself on the weekend. We remember that in 2019, the APC lost all of its tickets in Rivers State because of the same issues of factions, where we have the Minister of Transportation versus a former Senator, Magnus Abbey, and people that follow him. And this is what still transpired over the weekend. And really, does the APC, or is the APC, let me put it this way, really ready to learn from its mistakes to move ahead? Is there a plan whatsoever, or are we going to keep seeing these things happen? And if this keeps happening, what's the hope for 2023 and all the plans that they may have?
Yeah, well, if a politician, by definition, is somebody who seeks electoral office in an election for the purpose of improving on the lives of the people, if that is a primary motivation for politics and for politicians, then those of them who are, politicians in this country are not exactly politicians, but you could describe them as mercenaries, or people who, the mercenary is essentially a soldier of fortune. There are no moral compulsions, and so he seeks power for the sake of power. Why a country like legitimate acquisition that is so blessed with all manners of resources, mineral and then, human resources, is wallowing in mediocrity. Of course, the politicians have not, there's a saying that, the person, the human, being, or Nigerian politician has learned nothing and has forgotten nothing. And that is why you are talking about what happened, what transpired in the past few years in Rivers State, repeating itself, again, and in virtually every state of the country. And this is, of course, we all remember how the APC came to, within the political space. So they have forgotten nothing. They have learned something about it. But then the discussion...
Which congresses will INEC look at as the original Congress? Which ones will INEC have to, give a nod to in this regard? Because it looks like almost half of the states across the country for the APC.
INEC's position is very simple. Parties are expected to present candidates. And from the body language of the APC, from what we have been monitoring, I think the governors eventually be presented. So it's a function of power game. But like I said earlier, can the party decides to go on Congress, anyone who decides